I could hardly believe what I was witnessing when that brazen man strutted toward our table, as if the whole room belonged to him. Without a moment of hesitation, he grabbed my wife's hand. The same wife who had already betrayed me, leaned down with a mocking smirk, and declared, "Why stay with this pathetic weakling? Dance with me first, and I'll show you what it's like to be with a real man." His arrogance reeked like poison in the air. I forced myself to remain composed, my expression calm, my heartbeat steady, but every fiber of my body was drawn tight like a bowstring ready to snap. With practiced precision, my hand shot out, clamping down on his wrist, twisting hard and fast. The sound that followed was sharp and revolting, the crack of bone breaking under pressure. The echo of it silenced the restaurant in an instant. He dropped to the ground, writhing in agony, clutching his ruined hand while horrified gasps swept across the room. The restaurant itself was a shrine of refined luxury, the kind of place where ambition and indulgence met over expensive wine. Warm amber light from chandeliers spilled across polished mahogany, catching on cut crystal glasses that sparkled faintly. The faint strains of piano music floated through the air, gentle, refined. Yet tonight, everything felt like a gilded cage suffocating me. Once I relished this atmosphere. Tonight, I could only feel the weight of betrayal pressing in on me. Across the table, Amal sat like the image of sophistication. Her raven-dark hair was carefully styled into soft waves, her gown of deep scarlet satin molding perfectly to her figure. She looked flawless, untouchable. But when I stared deeper, her beauty was nothing but a mask. Behind those painted eyes, there was only emptiness. Months of late nights at her law firm. Hushed calls that went silent the moment I entered. Excuses piling upon excuses. It had all led here. Tonight was meant to be a chance to reconnect, a gesture to heal. Instead, it became the night I saw the mask slip completely. The shadow that fell over our table had been a warning. And when I looked up, there he was. Mid-30s, broad-shouldered, wearing arrogance like a tailored suit. His navy jacket fit him perfectly, his tie an artful knot, his eyes a cold blue that seemed to pierce straight through me. As if I wasn't even there. His gaze locked only on my wife. "Amal," he said, voice honeyed with charm but curdled with conceit. "Didn't expect to see you tonight." Her hand froze halfway to her lips, wine glass trembling slightly. Her eyes darted between us, betraying panic before she spoke. "Lucas," she breathed, her voice quivering. "What are you doing here?" "Just enjoying the city," he replied smoothly, flashing a grin. Then, without sparing me a glance, he reached for her hand and tightened his grip. "Why waste your time with him? Let's dance. I'll show you what you deserve." The lively hum of the restaurant died instantly. All eyes turned toward us, as though the chandeliers themselves had become spotlights on a stage. Amal tried to pull away, but Lucas only gripped her tighter. My anger, once hot, turned cold and exact. I rose slowly. The scrape of my chair against the polished floor loud in the unnatural quiet. "You have 3 seconds to let go," I said, voice low, precise, sharp as steel. He sneered. "And if I don't?" My reply was action. My hand locked around his wrist, twisting with all the strength and certainty I carried. The snap was brutal, unmistakable. He collapsed, howling, his face contorted in pain. Amal gasped, shock painted across her face. The other diners sat frozen, forks and glasses suspended midair, unable to look away. "Magnus, what are you doing?" Amal whispered, voice trembling with disbelief. I ignored her. I crouched low, staring into Lucas's wide, pain-fogged eyes. My words came out quiet, almost intimate. "This is only the beginning. You've made a mistake. And I promise you'll regret it." He grit his teeth, spitting words through the agony. "You'll pay for this." I stood tall, my gaze shifting to Amal, who sat rigid and pale. "We're leaving. Now." She hesitated, but my tone brooked no argument. Slowly, she rose, her heels clicking too loudly in the silence as we left the restaurant behind us. The drive home was unbearable. The silence pressed down like a weight, the air in the car thick and suffocating. Amal sat stiff, her hands clasped so tightly her knuckles whitened. Eyes locked forward as if looking anywhere else might shatter her. When we reached the garage, I shut off the engine and turned to her. "Talk," I demanded, my voice cold and controlled. Her shoulders jerked slightly at the sharpness of my tone. Magnus, I don't know what you want me to say. I want the truth, I said, leaning closer. Who is he? How long? Her eyes glossed with tears, but they meant nothing to me. My sympathy for her had been burned away. 6 months, she whispered at last, her voice breaking. It started 6 months ago. Though I'd already suspected, hearing it aloud sliced through me like a blade. I held my breath steady, forcing control. And tonight? Was this your idea of humiliating me? Throwing it in my face? I didn't know he'd be there, she cried. I swear. Stop. I cut her off. I saw how you looked at him. You knew. Her sobs filled the garage, but I felt nothing. My mind had already moved past sorrow. Beyond the grief was calculation. The next morning, as dawn stretched over Geneva, I sat in my office staring out at the silver skyline. I began mapping out my response. Lucas would be the first to fall. His social media flaunted wealth and power, jets, champagne, tailored suits. But with the right contacts, I uncovered the truth. Mountains of debt, failed businesses, lawsuits circling like vultures. Piece by piece, I built the case. Meanwhile, Amal moved through her days as though nothing had changed, blind to the storm gathering around her. I collected everything: messages, photos, receipts, evidence sharp enough to destroy reputations. When my plan was ready, I unleashed it. Lucas arrived at a prestigious charity gala, surrounded by Geneva's elite, only to have his name dragged through headlines that same night. Fraud, corruption, extortion. His accounts frozen, his partners fleeing, his empire collapsing into dust. Amal's reckoning came when I slid divorce papers across the table. She tried to protest, but I had already dismantled her facade. Our prenup ensured she walked away with nothing, not even her reputation, which disintegrated under the whispers of the circles she once craved. In court, she stood hollow, her strength stripped away. Magnus, she whispered after the final signing. I know I hurt you, but was all of this truly necessary? I met her gaze evenly. Choices have consequences. Her tears clung to her lashes as she turned and walked away, a ghost of the woman I had once loved. Months passed. My home became peaceful again, free from her shadow. I poured my energy into work, expanding across Europe, rebuilding my life with sharper clarity. The wound she left became a scar, painful once, but now a mark of survival. At a future gala, I felt a gentle touch on my shoulder. Turning, I met Isabelle Fournier, a historian, elegant yet grounded, her confidence natural, her presence unforced. Her conversation was sharp yet kind, her laughter unpretentious. For the first time in years, I felt something real spark inside me. Later that night, I stood on my balcony, glass of wine in hand, the Geneva skyline glittering beneath the dark sky. I thought of the betrayal, of what it had done to me. Pain had sharpened me, forged me into something harder, steadier. Betrayal had broken me, but it had also rebuilt me. Lifting the glass toward the stars, I whispered a vow only the night could hear. Renewal begins here.